So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted to have with us Dean Cameron, who's director at T.M.West Plumbing and Heating Services, I should say. So, Dean, thank you so much for spending a bit of time. And if firstly you'd like to introduce yourself, your business, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, first of all, Chris, thank you for inviting me on. I'm
Really well.
excited to talk about business. So
Brilliant.
yeah, thank you. So yeah, short introduction. I'll try and keep it short because I do love speaking about myself. So
All good. All good.
my name's Dean, and you're right, I'm the director here at T.M.West. As you can tell with the accent, I'm not from Leeds. I'm from this very far north in the Scottish Highlands.
Oh,
So,
well.
yeah, deep in the mountains, a place called Fort William, just below Ben Nevis.
I love Fort William. It's a beautiful place.
It is beautiful. And yeah, a little bit of my background. I am a plumbing and heating engineer. And, I was a good engineer, in fact. Not to blow my own trumpet, I was a good engineer. And my town was quite small, so I didn't want to start a business in my town. And
Yes.
I felt like I needed a change. So I moved into learning about business. I spent every bit of money I had on networking and getting involved in the right business networking groups.
Yep.
I then got involved in mergers and acquisitions.
Right.
So yeah, I spent 2 years studying mergers and acquisitions, putting some money in the bank. And that's when I decided to take the plunge and buy a business, which has taken me to T.M.West. Now, T.M.West is 118 years old. It's a very old business. And
Wow.
when I did the lead generation in the background, when these owners approached me, I was like, wow, there's a legacy here. So there's
Yes.
an absolute legacy here. So absolutely, I'll bite the hand that feeds me with this business. Yeah. So there's me and there's another director called Graham Eden. Now, Graham Eden is my business partner, a good friend. He is the business mind. Now, he is the business head, corporate background. He's
Yep.
scaled businesses before, and
Yep.
he's managed large scale companies.
Yep.
I'm the industry head, so I have the
Yes.
industry knowledge, and together, that business mind and that industry mind,
Brilliant.
we've came together and
Brilliant.
essentially bought TM West.
Brilliant. Brilliant. What an exciting journey. It's in so many different ways. So you talked a little bit about background, being trained. Yeah, um, and so you're in mergers, and I'm just interested that if you can share any of this, you may not want to, but you were approached, you were in mergers, you were approached about this business. Why this particular one that floated your boat? I get the background, but is there any other things that you thought this is a
Yeah,
business I want to be part of?
of course. Well, I mean, TM West is a reactive maintenance firm in Leeds. It's been running in Leeds and Yorkshire for 118 years. It is well known. When I bought the business and I was going out to meet some of the customers, even the older customers, my mum, my dad used to use you. These are customers in their 60s
Brilliant.
telling me that their mothers and fathers used to use TM West. So the word of mouth is powerful.
Yeah.
Everybody recognises the vans. When I have people coming in for job interviews, yeah, I know TM West. Of course I know TM West. So there's a sense of pride there. It's a very, very old business with a fantastic legacy.
Yeah.
Me and Graham are the fourth owners, and it's our turn to continue that legacy, and
Wonderful.
in return try to scale the company. And that's essentially our plan through acquisition and essentially potentially trying to create a group within Yorkshire.
Yep.
This is the home base right here in Leeds city centre.
Yes.
We've got York at our doorstep, we've got Wakefield, we've got Harrogate, and there's that M62 corridor that's right on its way to Manchester. So it'd be crazy not to head over there too.
Absolutely. Wonderful. So when you were growing up, is this a sort of future you had predicted for yourself, or did you have other things in mind as a young lad?
Well, I'm sure as many business owners agree, there's always something fresh bouncing about your mind. So, I've always had that kind of entrepreneurial mindset. I've started multiple businesses, not to this scale by any means,
Yes.
and I've dabbled in so many different skill sets. Personal branding was a big one in the past. I did a lot of personal branding on social media, so I grew a social media account to like 500,000. So
Oh,
I'm well
really?
aware of personal branding and sales, essentially.
Wow.
So yeah, it's one of my. I feel like one of my skill sets is the sort of charismatic confidence to go out and kind of sell. And through years of building that personal branding on social media, it gave me that confidence to speak as well.
Yes.
So I understand personal branding and branding in itself.
Yeah.
And buying a business that's 118 years old, it's easy to sell that because there's trust, there's
Yes.
familiarity as
Yes.
well, you know. So that was another thing that pulled me towards T.M.West. I had multiple business owners approach me when I did the lead generation, when I was trying to find a business to buy.
Yep.
But when John Ambler and Martin Small, the previous owners, reached out to me, I was kind of shocked. Wow, this could be something. I could be onto something here.
Yeah. That's absolutely brilliant. And since taking it over and starting to grow, when did you take it over, if I could ask?
We took over March last year.
March last year. Cool. Okay.
Mhm.
And so since then, what if you're okay to share, what are some of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome, would you say?
Mindset shifts has been a difficult one because you can imagine when the previous owners were here for 30 years, it's very hard to kind of
Right.
shift certain mindsets. And, you know, they had their turn in the business. They done fantastic with it.
Yep.
Moving on to new owners with lofty ambitions and essentially new ways of working, trying to take the staff along with that can
Yeah.
be challenging.
Yeah.
And when we bought the business, Chris, they were still using job cards, you know, the T cards.
Yes, I do. Yeah. Yeah.
So when I first, I think it was the first week, you know, I'm sitting just observing. You know, I spent months observing what was going on, and you had, you know, 8 engineers coming into the office in the morning, and John would be going through every T card with every engineer. The last engineer would leave at like 10 o'clock, half 10, and you're like, wow, like you multiply that over days and weeks and
Yes.
a year, essentially, you're losing so much time and money.
Yes.
So first thing, let's get systems in place.
Yep.
Let's get systems in place.
Brilliant.
So we implemented field management softwares. Now essentially everything runs online.
Great.
Everything's through these PDAs. So the job will come in. We have 8 o'clock morning calls where I quickly do a 15-minute debrief with the engineers. This is your jobs for the day, challenges from the day before, etc., etc., etc.
Brilliant.
And that in the first year, we increased revenue by, I think it was 12%, but we doubled profit.
Wow. Fantastic.
Essentially because we made it so much leaner in the back end,
Yep.
so much more leaner.
Yeah.
So, it's mad how much sort of wastage was in there, but it's just because you're moving it to more modern times. And I'm
Yes.
seeing so many businesses these days that they're not, I seen this fantastic post on LinkedIn, and a tech expert bought a roofing company, and he goes, it's no longer a roofing company, it's a tech company.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
put the right tech in place that
Yeah.
was all automating, the systems were automations, and the job process was, everything was automated. And it just made it so lean, so lean.
Brilliant. It reminds me of Sir Clive Woodward, who's the England rugby coach that helped them win the Rugby World Cup. And one of his, I've heard it speak a couple of times. One of his big propositions is whoever wins in tech wins.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just like, even going back, it was quite funny actually. It was going back to those early days, and a friend of mine, is a coaching friend of mine, was close friends with Jason Leonard, who was one of the props that were there at the World Cup, and there's this lovely photo of the front row with these huge men with massive hands trying to use
Yeah,
laptops. You know,
yeah, yeah,
it's quite fun. Brilliant. So tech, yeah, so winning tech. So yeah, becoming a tech company that happens to do a service rather than a service company that may not have tech.
yeah,
Bang on. Absolutely
absolutely.
brilliant.
Like anything I can automate, I will try.
Yes.
I even have like the old owner, he would do every quote that would come in.
Right.
Now I have worksheets that I built personally and onto the jobs. So when the guys are on site, if there's a quote needed, they will literally fill the worksheet out. My staff can then take that to an AI online, and the
Yep.
AI is prompted to be like a plumbing expert, for example. It will come up with that script of what they've said for that quote. And before they send that quote out, because all our prices are structured into these worksheets
Brilliant.
and all these softwares that anyone can quote in this office and give a detailed description of what is in that quote,
Love it.
then I'll just confirm it before it gets sent. I'll just run it past them because obviously I still have the industry knowledge. My staff don't have the expertise in plumbing,
Love it.
but I'll just quickly check it over and send it out. And it's
Yeah.
become obviously a lot leaner that end too.
Wonderful. So just go through those numbers again, because I think they're really valuable. Increasing revenues of 12%, but a doubling in profit.
Yeah, it was in between 12 and 20%. We increased revenue, but we doubled profit just because the back end was made so much more leaner. You can
Fun.
think of all the costs in the back end running
Yeah.
T cards and even the invoices, Chris, were stacked. We would come in and John would be doing invoices from 3 weeks before,
Yeah.
stacked up on the desk because all the T cards, when they come back, that's when you can invoice out.
Yes.
So he had this pile and he's sitting, spending half a day going through 3 weeks worth of invoices. And then the cash flow was like this,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we just said, nope, invoice as soon as job's done.
Yep.
And from the system, we automate the invoices too. When the job's done,
Love it.
that can calculate our pricing and it automatically creates the invoice. We just confirm it, financially complete it. Cash flow's just like that, steady rather than.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Fabulous. It's a great advert for systemization.
Mm,
And supporting scaling, because once you've got solid systems in place, there's, the ability to scale is purely a function of, or mainly a function of marketing and sales, not the ability to deliver.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. And there has been a lot of challenges, because anyone that's in mergers and acquisitions knows the challenges that come with buying a business.
Yeah.
It can be deferred payments or it can be structured debt, and you have to hit targets more than you would running a business normally.
Yes.
So we do weekly financial forecasts with an outsourced financial team, and we do monthly KPI financial reports.
Great.
So we dial into the numbers. So every week we have an outsourced financial team that will go through the financial forecast, everything, how many invoices is raised, etc., etc. And we're constantly measuring every analytic we can from the financial side because we can't not.
Yeah. I completely get that. So there's a lot of learning there already. Is there any other key learnings that you'd have around growing and scaling a business?
This is because we've done 1 year in, we've dipped our toes in now, and essentially, I'm in more of a place of operations. I would say I'm deep in the business rather than on top of it.
Yep.
The next step is to kind of move myself into essentially outside the business a little bit more and putting someone in it as a manager.
Great.
Because
Great.
obviously when the old owner stayed on with us for a whole year and
Oh,
he helped with the handover.
yeah.
And when he left, it's just left me with a lot of the operational side, which has proven really difficult because I can't scale and manage the business as well. So there's that caveat. So we're now looking essentially for a unicorn to jump into the business and
Yep.
manage it. So then I can then go out and scale. Now, we've never had a problem with winning work. That's the thing. We're really busy. The challenges is resource sometimes because I feel like there's not a lot of plumbers
Hmm.
um, essentially with the quality that we're looking for.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if there is, they know their worth. They know their worth, and they're potentially working for themselves anyway. I
Yeah.
know that myself.
Yeah. No,
So there's loads of
100%.
challenges, loads of challenges. Yeah.
100%. I suppose that's where potentially having our own sort of training and systemization process might be a way forward. There's quite a few really effective scaling businesses that have had their own apprenticeship academy in effect, and teaching
Mhm.
teaching younger people that really want to develop how we do it here. But that's
Absolutely.
there's a time lag to that, obviously. So I
Yeah.
guess it's a bit of a balance of both. Um,
Yeah. I mean, we've still got a lot of work to do on the operational side. There's still so much we can fine tune. Um,
yeah,
as I said, there's communication, there's planning, there's so much more that we can fine tune before we scale.
yeah,
Essentially, we're sitting steady, we're sitting stable, which is perfect. But the
yeah.
long term goal is to make an exit, build some credibility for myself in the space, but getting an exit um, 5 times multiple, hopefully to 10.
Great.
So that is essentially what we're trying to do. Yeah.
Wonderful. And Dean, you're probably aware we're a business coaching organisation. I'm keen to know who the best coaches are that you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, life in general. Who's had the biggest impacts on you?
Oh, coaching. There's the mergers and acquisitions network that I'm in. There's the guy that runs that's called D Ludlow. Now he is massive in the mergers and acquisitions team, and what he's done is phenomenal in the background. He's essentially built a vast network of experts from any industry you can think of, and he's teaching them how to buy businesses. So
Great.
in that network, like you are in great hands. That's where I met my business partner. I remember turning around to my business partner before we bought T.M.West and said, "Can you teach me how to read financial documents?" I have no idea how to read the finance of a company. So in due diligence stage, and I'm looking at the numbers, I'm like, what does this mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
he essentially showed me how to read the numbers and basically strip off the clothes of a company essentially and look at it naked, because that's what the
yeah.
numbers are. You're seeing the business for what it is. So in a coaching space, the D Ludo, but essentially we have a smaller group ourselves. Myself, Pat Farrell, who is one of the managing directors of Brewis Engineering, and Graham Eden, who's my business partner, who is a director of T.M.West, a director of Brewis Engineering, and also a director of AA Waste. And between us, we've spoke about going into business consultancy because we're all three of us are essentially growing businesses.
Yep.
We're scaling them to exit, and we know how to buy them. So, yeah, we're going to sell ourselves here as well.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah, it's this. I think the most important thing is people have access to the right level of help and support when they need it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's such a it is potentially such a tough gig trying to grow a business
yeah.
that
Can I
yeah.
make a mention as well, actually, Chris? Well, I'm on.
Please.
So I'm a jiu-jitsu grappler.
Ah,
I've been training it for a long time, and I train at Scramble Academy in Leeds. Now, jiu-jitsu and business just go hand in hand because the resilience I build on the mat helps me on the day to day. The resilience you build through the discipline of jiu-jitsu and be able to control your emotions in these difficult circumstances when someone's powering down on top of you.
yeah, yeah,
When you take that to business,
yeah.
you're so calm and composed. So I'm just going to try and sell the fact that Scramble Academy has some of the best coaches in the north of England, Fred Greenall and Mike as well. So yeah, if you're looking to train jiu-jitsu, come down to Scramble Academy. Come and try and kick my ass if you want. So yeah,
Fabulous. No, great. Because as I say, that's why I say business, sport, and life because the people that support us in different ways, and as an organisation, we've taken a lot of our coaching knowledge from the sporting world because people have been coaching in sport for way longer than they've been coaching in business. So
yeah.
that's a great. In fact, our director of coaching is an ex-Olympic badminton coach.
Wow.
Yeah, it's we bring in sports coaches on a regular basis because, as I say, that mindset, as you said, the resilience side of things is very much comes from sport and especially the martial arts from a discipline point of view. So bang on, absolutely brilliant. And
You're right.
yeah,
You're
sorry,
right.
go on.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, well, just to go back on what you said there, we had our Q2 meet there last week, me, Graham, and Pat, where we discuss obviously the business. But what we discussed, which is really, really important, and a lot of business owners forget this: where are you at mentally and where are you at physically? So we start off the day. So we have a big rating of things. Where are we mentally with mentally with our finances? Where are we with our mental health? Where are we physically? All these subjects that we talk about, and we rate ourselves 1 to 10.
Great.
So for Q1, we would have all these numbers and we compare it. Okay, well, my financial state in Q1 was a 4, but obviously all this has happened. So now in Q2, it's a 7. And I discuss why it's a 7. And then obviously my mental state, well, mentally at Christmas, I wasn't doing well. There was a lot on top of me. But in Q2, my mental state's an 8. I'm training all the
Love it.
time. I'm feeling good. So I couldn't express enough. Business owners, you need to obviously consider your mental health and physical health because if they're not performing, it will affect the business massively.
Bang on. Yeah, I know that makes a lot, massive amount of sense. I always start a coaching session with what we call a whiffle, which people think means waffle, but whiffle stands for what I feel like expressing, and it
Amazing.
basically brings us together how we're feeling,
Yeah.
because how we feel will affect our behaviour in any
Yeah.
meeting, whether we're happy or sad or worried and so coming together both, yeah, as you say, physically and mentally is so key. Um,
Absolutely.
so valuable. And Dean, I love collecting quotes and sayings about business or success or general. Do you have any favorite quotes or sayings you catch yourself using on a regular basis?
What gets measured gets managed.
What gets measured gets managed. Love it. I think that's a David Meister quote, isn't it?
It's my business partner Graham. It's because obviously my background is plumbing and heating. Essentially, I'm very new to business, and he cannot stress enough. What you measure will get managed. So everything has to be measured,
Absolutely.
so in every way. So yeah,
Absolutely.
he drills that into me.
Brilliant. Great quote. Bang on quote. It's just like good performance in case. So, so key. And there's always a way of measuring it. And interestingly enough, just to highlight something you said slightly earlier, something that you might consider to be measurable, like mental state, is it can just be turned into, well, tell me what you are. And it's not so much that you're a right now that you're a six, but you're a six coming from an eight or an six. So in many ways, it's the trend is in things, but anything can be
Yes,
measured in some
absolutely.
way. Just have a go.
Yeah, yeah, and like referring back to that, like that chart that we did at these meetings, it's like you're going mental state, physical state. You're going as far as family relationships, business
wow,
relationships.
wow,
You're diving down into everything. That's Graham that obviously has been, you know, incentivized us to do this.
yes,
So then my business partners know where I'm at. So if I'm saying, right,
yeah,
my family relationships right now are a four, okay, and they ask why are they a four? I'm not getting home enough. I'm what right, okay, how do we change that? How do we get you back up to,
brilliant.
seven or eight? Because you'll never be a 10. Like you'll never be a 10, but the aims to get there. So,
Yeah,
how do we get you up there? And then they're aware. So then going into the next quarter, they'll remember, like, Dean's, he's mentioned to us that he's a four on the family relationship. Let's try and work and try and buy back some of his time so he can go up and see his family.
brilliant.
So what gets measured gets managed.
Love it. Brilliant. And further on the learning side of things, have you got any favorite books or podcasts that you listen to around business or success in general?
Um, Obviously, there's the kind of the goat just now, which is Alex Hormozy. I've been listening to a lot of him. I love Good to Great by Jim Collins,
Great. Yeah.
which is obviously one of the top books in business, and I use one of his analogies all the time because what's new to me is employing people,
Yep.
and essentially, the analogy he uses is that you are the driver on the bus. Now, when you let people on that bus, if they're not sitting in the right seat, and for example, they stink, it's going to stink the rest of the bus out, and everybody's going to want to get off. So you have to make sure the people in the right seats, and you don't let anyone that's stinking, because if they're stinking, everyone's walking off that bus.
Like it.
So
Yeah, no, absolutely. The thing I would say about the bus analogy is also as leaders, we need to have clear direction and vision. And
yes,
that's what it says on the front of the bus. So it helps people decide, do I want to get on the bus in the first place if we're going
yeah,
here?
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
I often say we find businesses that actually says magical mystery tour, which will attract a different type of person. It might be the right type of person, but it probably isn't. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's really really key. And just further on learning, Dean, what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far?
To be honest, I've learned a lot. I feel the confidence I've built because I've thrown myself into something that's extremely difficult. And I think this is the hardest thing I've ever done. There's times where I'm like, how do I keep doing this? I'm just very fortunate to be surrounded by people that are pushing me, and surrounded by support with the
Great,
collective people like Pat,
great,
like Graham, and like others outside, and there's days where I'm in here some it's not uncommon to be doing 16 hours sometimes, and if that sometimes goes unnoticed for business owners. But it's teaching me how to delegate. And if anything, I've been trying to work out how I delegate things more.
yeah,
So and every part of my life and learning systemization, how do I systemize my life, how do I structure it, how do I delegate. But most importantly, it's showing me that I have grit and determination.
yeah,
And as long as I have that grit and determination, I know I'll see it through. So I've learned a lot about myself. And I'm proud of where I am now, considering where I was before I bought this business. And my business owner, Graham, he says it all the time. He goes, it's great to watch you develop. And that's one of the main keys for him, was to come in here and help develop me. And he's seeing it. And he at times, he's like throwing me right in the deep end to feel the pain. Because if he does
great.
everything for me, essentially, what am I going to learn? So there's times I'm throwing him up, going, what do I do? What do I do? Step back, measure it. How do we manage it?
Measure it absolutely. What's the measure? 100%. Brilliant, brilliant. It's great to have that level of support, and I think that's it's great. But we do, yeah. I mean, it's. I think there's some things we can learn from others to avoid the excessive depths of pain, but we do have to touch into those challenges on a regular basis because if we've never had a challenge, we're probably not going to learn a hell of a lot, and
No.
it's more luck than if we're danger, it just be more luck than judgment.
Yeah.
And
Growth doesn't come from comfort. Growth does not come from comfort.
no, 100%. And what's interesting, I was actually literally talking to a colleague of mine this morning, um, and I used the phrase that in many areas there is people who are in a discomfort zone, i.e., that they're staying where they are, but they're not actually happy where they are, and it's just like
Yeah,
nuts that we would stay there, but we'll take the pain at the same point.
absolutely.
So lots going on, and obviously, I mean, very exciting journey at the moment, which I'm really in awe of. So, looking forward, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
The challenges within the business itself is obviously resources.
Yes,
I've still managed to keep every employee that we've had originally from the start, but it's trying to find the right people to plug in.
yes,
So that I'm proud of that, and the team are solid. They're good guys.
yep,
It'd be good. We've taken on an apprentice who is fantastic.
brilliant.
Challenges for me though is scaling without the resources, and you know, it's essentially moving the business into different things. But sometimes the big ideas come, but we have to maybe focus on what we're best at.
Yeah,
There has been challenges per se with like me moving into what I know, which is like large scale site work and renovations. I've dipped my toes in that and then realized, okay, we have a skill shortage there.
yeah,
And it's quickly became clear we're not ready to jump into that yet. So
yes,
moving forward, it's we want to scale with pace, but patience,
yeah,
and patience is the key word
yeah,
there. So there's that. And from as a collective, we want to kind of scale each multiple business, exit at a later date, if not continue to maybe take a dividend out, sell, maybe consult for equity in the long run, potentially. For me, my aim in the next year or two is to build a personal brand. I feel like, it was something I was good at before. I'm going to come back to it, build a personal brand again around business, around aiming at business owners that are kind of just getting started to kind of give them that confidence and level of support within a community of people that are like-minded. And
yes,
that's my goal, and then we'll see where that goes. I know how lonely it can feel, and I can't express enough how important support and community is. And some of them just don't have that. I see some business owners back in my town, and they're absolutely devouring themselves mentally and physically. So to try and build that community, get these business owners with the right support to keep in touch with their mental health and their physical health,
yeah,
because essentially that's what's going to scale that business.
brilliant, brilliant. And I'm keen to know what you'd say to anyone that was thinking of going into business right now, Dee.
What I would say is prepare to work hard. Like seriously. I mean, a lot of people want to move into business because they think they'll buy back more time. And you'll know just as well as I
Yeah,
do, Chris, that when you first start out, that is not the case. That is not the case. A lot of them move into business, spend more time with family. And if you're wanting to make yourself financially well off, it just does not come at the start. You've got that. What do I want to do? Do I want more time, but I'm going to work for less money? Or do I want more money? I'm going to have less time. And that's why it's important to, if you're going to run into it, you need to run into it hard and set up the right systems and automations pretty quickly, and get the right people on the buses we spoke about earlier.
yeah,
But that, as I said, you run into it too fast, it's going to be difficult. So you need to do it with patience. There is always the end goal, but I just would like to say to anyone going into business, just be prepared to be determined, be determined, work hard, and it will pay off. It will pay
yeah.
off.
Without a doubt, I think the other end of the scale is something that we do a lot of work with, which is getting to the point where we're actually to change the mindset. Because one of the challenge, so we're told from early, you've just said it, and it's absolutely true. And our parents will tell it, work hard and you'll be successful, and that's
Mhm.
absolutely true. What I believe, I've seen so many times now, though, is once we get to that point of scale, we have to change our identity quite significantly. So it's not how
Mhm.
hard I work, it's how hard I can build, how hard I can get other people to work by building a great team,
Yeah, yeah,
if that makes sense. And it's quite difficult because if all our life we've our success has been based on how hard we work,
yeah,
the challenge can be when something happens, the reaction is still, what can I do? What do I need to do?
yeah. Yeah,
and it's so difficult. I think it's not absolutely not impossible, but it takes time and effort to
it
actively
does.
start to work through others, if that makes sense.
It does. There's a fantastic process that Alex Hormozi talks about. And he says it is like the common loop that he sees all the time. And he preaches about stay focused on one thing. And he always says that, when you deviate and you come up with new ideas and you try new things, you're just looking back at the start. So he says it starts here. You're going up, you have this fantastic idea. You're like, oh yeah, and then you start going and peaking. You're like, you're putting all this time into, you're putting all this effort into. You're bubbling with this ambition and drive, and you're getting to the top of the peak. Then you're like, okay, this is a little bit hard. Okay, I'm competing with people here. You're coming back down. You're coming back down to the bottom of the peak. You're like, I don't know if I can do this. I can't compete. I'm running out of money. And then a new idea comes, and they go back to the start of the loop with a fresh idea. But
Right.
here is where the big thing happens, because this is where most people give up, like 90% of people. What happens here, if you continue to push through and keep focusing on it, it's going to go back up.
Yeah.
And that's when you scale
Yeah.
in life and in business.
Yeah.
There's been
Yeah.
so many times where I'm like, right, no, it's been getting so hard in here and I'm just overwhelmed. I'm like, this new idea comes, and I'm like, I could be doing this in the background, but then that's going to pull me away from here.
Yeah. I got you. Yeah. No. You're moving on to something else because
Yes, it's like that
this is
shiny
the one.
object syndrome of ideas.
So I remember somebody described using the acronym FOCUS, which I quite liked, which was fixed on course until successful was
Yes,
focus, and I quite like that because it
I
is
like that. Yeah,
obviously using our numbers. If we're measuring it, we know is it ultimately going to continue to be, there is
yeah.
a level of measurement because sometimes we have to acknowledge that it may be going, may not make it, but the too many people, as you rightly say, give up too early.
Yeah, they do. And I've seen it before. I know someone personal to me, personally in my life, and they started a cleaning business. It was doing great, ambitious. It was doing really great. It started to take off. It started to win a lot of domestic work, and they were getting right up the peak. So many ideas, and they came up with, let's move into commercial cleaning. Then when they got really busy, he started to come down, and he's got all this work. He's struggling to manage staff, and he's just losing love of it. And then he's like, I'm going to
Yeah.
try something else. Do not stop. Try something else. That's when you're just about to peak. I said, do not stop. Do not stop. And he's started to come back up. He's got the drive again. He's like, I've got more commercial work. I'm going to give up the domestic to go to commercial. I'm making a lot of money. I was like, it's because you never gave up at the bottom of that peak. You just continued,
Brilliant.
even though everything's telling you not to do it. And and as he was coming down, he's like, do you know what? I think I'm going to start a coffee shop. I'm like, no, so, focus on what you're doing. You're about to go.
Because that's all my
Yeah,
trade. Everything I've done, I'll go a coffee shop. Yeah,
yeah.
brilliant. Um, Finally, final question for you. What would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do that, Dean?
Depending on where they're wanting to go. If it was business, for example, I would love to learn more about finance. Like if I could go back,
Yes.
obviously I'm from the trade, so I don't have much financial knowledge. So that does interest me now. But looking back, I mean, I wish I did go into sort of business studies and took it a bit more serious. I was a bit of a wild 18-year-old. So, I would say, look, stay out of the pub, dial down, focus on online skills, like, building a personal brand and anything like that. Personal brand is going to be the next big thing, and
Yes.
people are buying people, they're not buying businesses anymore. Like you look at most businesses, they're probably going to follow the leader, aren't they?
Yeah.
So there's so much you can be doing out there. I mean, I'm 31 years old, and I'm fortunate enough to have took the step a couple of years ago to change that.
Yeah.
If I took that step when I was 18, I would be sitting on the Bahamas. I believe I'd be sitting in the Bahamas sipping a pina
I'm
colada
sure
right
you would.
now.
I'm sure you would. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, listen, it's all depending on what they want, and that's not me. That's not to starve yourself from enjoying life. You can still enjoy life and work hard.
Yeah.
I enjoyed life a little bit too much.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Just I know this might be near the end of the podcast, but I've recently just joined up with two amazing women called Shell and Stacey that have Clarity Circle, which is life coaching business, and I'm now a director of Clarity for Men, which is a new suicide prevention and
Oh, great.
mental health community for men within
Yep.
Yorkshire.
Yep.
So I just wanted to reach out and just mention that. We're building that in the background, and it's going to give people, ongoing support and peer support and coaching in the mental health
Brilliant.
community for men. So it's called Clarity for Men. So find us on Facebook, and anyone in Yorkshire that's interested in that, yeah.
Thank you. No, that's really great. That's yeah, something that's so important nowadays. I think, one thing I was clear on was that, we talked before we started about COVID, but going through that whole COVID and lockdown period, I think everybody's mental health dropped uh, by a certain amount, and
Absolutely.
that including myself, I was conscious of it, and therefore it put a whole bunch more people down into somewhere of that's unhealthy. And I think the more we can do to help and support people's mental health, and
Absolutely, Chris.
better. And things like
Yeah,
the remote working, there's a lot more people doing remote working as a result of COVID and lockdown and being able to, which comes with its own benefits, but it also comes with a level of potential isolation that many of us aren't used to. So no, that's wonderful. Thank you.
yeah.
We'll make sure so you're on Facebook. We can.
Instagram. Yep. What I would love to do is give you the phone number and the email address, and you can potentially post it with us. I'm not too sure. Yeah, if you can. It's, as I said, we spoke a lot about mental health within this and the importance of it in business. So Clarity for Men, it's in Yorkshire. We're building this as a support for men in any walk of life.
Thank you. No, no, we'd be delighted to highlight as much as possible. If you send us
Thank
details,
you.
we'll make sure we put it in the post. And and thank you so much for today. It's been really fascinating and really insightful and quite inspiring and very inspiring, in fact. But and just so we just again from the benefit of T.M.West, what's the anyone watching? What's the best way to contact you directly or T.M.West?
If anyone wants to contact me directly, you'll get me on LinkedIn. Justine Cameron, you'll find me on LinkedIn. Anyone that's needing any plumbing help, emergency plumbing, the number is 0113 247 1888. And we do 24-hour call out, we do gas, we do oil, we do air source, we do reactive maintenance. So if there's water coming through your ceiling and you don't know what to do, then just remember this handsome Scottish man in T.M.West.
Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. Well, Dean, it's really been delightful, and it'd be great to swing by another 6 to 12 months and just see the next stages because clearly you're on a fairly rapid growth curve, and it'd be good
Pop
to
in.
pick up
That's
the.
pop in.
Look, I
Yeah,
will. I will do that. I'll search you out and I'll come and say hello if
absolutely. You're more than welcome. Absolutely.
brilliant. But for now, thank you so much.
Thanks, Chris. I really appreciate it. Thank you. It's been great.
Cheers.